oil. We did one on fight clubs. Oh, you like that one.
Fight clubs?
Yeah. That was
There's
a really
real
good
fight
one.
clubs?
Yeah.
Really?
They are. I know. There are.
I've seen some stuff on YouTube where there's like these backyard setups where people...
Yeah. So we went to a few of those. But it's it's a real thing. We did another on organs, but I'll go there in a second. So fight clubs is really interesting. I actually used to love MMA.
Used to?
I mean, I don't watch it as much, or I don't watch it ever. But I used to watch it when it was when UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Challenge, came out.
Championship.
Ultimate
Fighting Championship. Yeah. It's okay.
You would know about it.
I do know about it.
Yeah. I used to really like it. Actually, I think that's the first time I remember hearing about you. But many, many years ago. When was that? It was like 2008?
When you've first heard
when the
about
championship came out. When they did the reality show.
That was 2005.
2005, yeah. The reality show.
Was The Ultimate Fighter.
Ultimate Fighting? Wasn't it a challenge?
No. I can help you here. This is... The Ultimate Fighting Championship is the name of the organization, and that was started in 1993. Mm-hmm. And it was purchased in 2001 by the company that I work for. Mm-hmm. And they were called Zuffa. I actually started working for them in 1997. Mm-hmm. I started working for the UFC when it was very underground, and it was only on DirecTV. It was actually banned from cable. Mm-hmm. But that was more of an economic thing. It was like boxing was trying to keep it out, and also people had like a distorted idea of what it was, and some people like John McCain referred to it as human cockfighting. Mm-hmm. But me, as a lifelong martial artist, it was what I'd always wanted to see, is stylistically, like, what is the best style of martial art? Mm-hmm. Like, because it's a puzzle. You know, people think of it, the way I describe martial arts is it's high-level problem solving with dire physical consequences.
Which is why I loved it. So it was called Ultimate Fighter, right?
Yes, that's the reality show that was on Spike
which
TV.
Which was so smart because it got people like me that I've never even watched or been interested in boxing to become obsessed with MMA. So for a little time, I was really into MMA, and I was really into I can't remember one single fighter that I liked at the time, but I did. I promise you I did. Many years ago I did. Okay. And one of the things that I really loved about it was the use, how smart it was, and how they're like problem solving constantly. And I love that part about it. Yeah. So haven't been a follower since. But having liked it at some point in my life and followed it, I started hearing about these fight clubs, and they do exist. And right now we basically, the episode is about one particular league. It's BKFC, Bare Knuckle Fighting. Have you heard of them? And we started the episode actually in Thailand, which is the Mecca for MMA, and we went to a few underground illegal fights there, and it was insane. Oh, you would love it. It was fucking crazy. Everything is allowed. So we went there. It's sort of this. It was this garage turned into a fight night, and you paid to go in. The promoter was a guy that we called Jonathan, and he says everything is allowed. Everything, you can even bite. Everything is allowed. You can bite. You can bite. You can do anything. Everything is allowed. And if people, because there's not an actual ring, if people come towards us, just push them back in. And I think it was like 20 kids or something, and they each fight against each other. And some of them come dressed up as clowns or as a businessman. They're like they make it entertaining, and they come up with names for themselves. And then they go at it. And you've been to many of these fights, but this, again, no rules. So everything's allowed.
You see people biting?
I didn't actually see people biting, but I did see a lot of blood, and there was no medics there, and there's no ambulances, and there's no medical whatever. And then there were two kids in particular that we filmed that had a lot of blood coming out, and then so that was Thailand, and we spent time there with BKFC there, that is actually run by a guy called Nick Chapman. And he was, two of the fighters that he had for his upcoming big event actually came from these groups, from the underground fighting. And it was a big draw because the underground fight that these two kids had fought had millions of viewers, and people loved it. And so then he brought them to the limelight of the BKFC, and he had them fight. And then we came to the U.S. and trying to figure out, wait, is this really happening here? Because, like you said, you see these videos on YouTube, but how big a thing is this? But the first place we went was in Detroit, And we went to this, in this case, it was actually an illegal boxing match. And it was a soup kitchen for the homeless during the day. And at night, it became a gambling and fight club league.
Whoa.
And it was boxing. Again, lots of kids, lots of gambling. So in this case, it's sort of what is legal and illegal changes in state by state. It's not legal. I think BKFC is actually not legal. Bare knuckle fighting is not legal in more than half of the U.S. And in Michigan, for example, Detroit, this was boxing, but you can't, if there's gambling involved, they don't have a license. So all of it was illegal, and there was gambling involved. And you're supposed to have paramedics on site and an ambulance on site. None of that happened. We filmed with one of the kids that got really badly hit, and he was taken out with his brother, like holding him out into the night. It was fascinating. So it's there. And then we follow this one kid who's 18 years old, the youngest ever BKFC fighter, as he sort of starts going to tryouts and then has his spot. And then we filmed his first fight at the BKFC. And it was really fascinating episode.
They're doing a lot of what they're doing is they're taking fighters that are sort of they fought for big organizations like the UFC and didn't do that well. And this is or they did well, and maybe their time is up, and then they offer them a lot of money to fight in these bare knuckle fights. And apparently they're offering them a lot of money. And
we interviewed David Feldman, who is the head of the BKFC. And I asked him, so are you recruiting, because I know he's recruiting a lot from former UFC fighters, but I asked him if he was also recruiting from sort of these illegal. And he said, not so much, but this kid, this 18-year-old, was found out because he was fighting in one of these backyard fights. And somebody saw him, a promoter saw him, really liked him, and then gave him this opportunity.